Top reasons your dog wants you to move to Ohio. Amazing dog parks to stretch your legs. All 4 of them. Dog-friendly patios. Even gourmet hot dogs loaded with the good stuff. Bon appetit. And Ohio has so many high-paying jobs, you'll be top dog in no time. Jobs in technology, engineering, science, advanced manufacturing, and more. The career you want and a life you'll love. Have it all in the heart of it all. Go to callohiohome.com.
Stripe is the go-to choice for AI companies, from early-stage startups to scaled enterprises. 78% of the leading AI companies use Stripe to go to market quickly and scale globally. That includes pioneers like NVIDIA, OpenAI, and Perplexity. Stripe has developed cutting-edge tools to improve everything from fraud detection to checkout optimization. Whether you're aiming for incremental gains or planning for enterprise transformation, see how Stripe can help at stripe.com.
Do Crohn's disease symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya guselkumab may help. At 12 weeks, rapid symptom remission was achieved in most patients taking Tremfya, and some experienced visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible and ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Did you know that Game Pass or Pass is brought to you for free because of Spotify for podcasters? It's a totally free platform, and you can make a podcast today for free. Spotify for podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. And if you think about taking your podcast to the next level with a video podcast, Spotify can help you too. With Spotify for podcasters, you can also earn money in a variety of ways that includes ads and podcast subscriptions. So what are you waiting for? Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to spotify.com/podcast to get started right now.
It's now time for a very force-filled edition of Game Pass or Pass. Podcast where we play games on Microsoft's Game Pass service and tell you which games to pass on to your friends and which games to simply pass on by. I am Corey, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Basher.
Amazing now.
Amazing.
That's a hell of an upgrade.
I know, right? I'm feeling good, I guess.
And we got introductions. This is
I
like
know.
2 weeks in a row.
I got a new desk. I got a new desk.
You got 2 new desks, or was it such a great new desk? You have to say it twice.
It's such a great new desk. It's a lot. It fits the room much better. I finally have 2 fans on my computer that are 10 millimeter or 15 millimeters. That's the base, because I've got a ITX build. So now my computer doesn't sound like it's taking off. So I'm in the midst of this quarantine, I'm becoming a better case fan person and a better desk person. That's what I've decided.
Question about the desk. As someone who's recently just purchased a new desk, is it smaller or larger than the previous desk?
It is. That's a big question. It is physically smaller, but it has more shelves and stuff on it.
Right.
Okay? So
okay. Yep.
I was an L desk person, and I still am. But it was a very large desk, and it was not the angles of it. So like where the L was, it was sort of like a rounded corner and not a actual corner. So therefore, like, you couldn't actually put it in the corner kind of thing. I will say my new desk, the actual physical length of the desk is much closer. So I feel like I went from a 24-inch monitor recently to a 27, and now I feel like it's like right in my frickin' face.
Right.
But I've gotten used to it, kind of thing. No keyboard tray though. That was something I didn't think I was gonna miss, but I definitely do miss the keyboard tray.
I was never a keyboard tray kind of guy, but I hear you.
Yeah, it's something I'm sure I'll adjust, kind of thing. But no, so this new one has a bunch of more shelves for the stuff that I don't have. Like, I was so concerned about shelf space, and then I got it, and I was like, well, at least I can put all my stupid toys up, I guess. So my 2 helmets they're both looking at me. So this is not a desk podcast. This is a podcast about video games. We're a week late, so I apologize to all 7 of you. We are not going anywhere. We are still going to be playing Game Pass games. And this week we have played, by request, Blair Witch. It's taken us about a month and a half now to get to this request, and I do apologize, but I
think that might be the case in general, however, because considering just the way we kind of play games and plan ahead.
Right.
So
well, it just happened. It happened to be there was just so much stuff coming out. Because Microsoft did, not Blair Witch, Ori and then Bleeding Edge back to back, and then we wanted to get Doom out on time, which that's almost a month right there. So, and then we weren't here last week, kind of thing. So let's talk about Blair Witch. Okay, so the developer, I don't know if is it Bloober, Bloober? I'm gonna go with Bloober. They're a Polish studio. They're mainly known for games of Layers of Fear and Observer, which I have played the first Layers of Fear. I have not played the second. And I have played Observer. I don't know, not a huge fan of them, but we'll talk more about this game later. Regularly priced at $29.99. It's available on Steam, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. There is no DLC at this time, and for all you Xbox One X owners out there, this game is enhanced with a higher resolution and HDR. I could not get any information on what higher resolution, other than it, quote, supports 4K. So that's it, though. Still runs at 30 frames per second on the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X. And I think we could classify this as a horror first-person adventure game.
Yeah, exactly that.
This game was unveiled at E3 2019, and it was a Game Pass Day 1 release, but we did not do this podcast at that time, so that's why we didn't cover it yet. But this is one of those first instances where they showed off a game and they were like, hey, by the way, coming to Game Pass Day 1. So that was kind of an exciting thing to play a brand new game on Game Pass. So I actually had played this game originally when it first came out on Game Pass, which I believe was last August. And I played it on the Xbox One X, but I believe this is your first time playing it?
You are wrong. A dirty
okay.
liar. I actually did play this on my Xbox One. So we'll get into it. It's one of those games for me.
Well, let's get into it. So this is technically in the quote Blair Witch universe. So if you have seen
Whatever that means, really.
Right. So I believe it takes place after the first one, but before the second one. Well, technically the third one. So in the Blair Witch canonical lore, does Blair Witch 2 count? Does anyone actually know? Because there is technically a Blair Witch 2 that is absolutely awful.
I think they all count, right? There hasn't been any official going back of what's canon and what's not.
I see, but I feel like because the first one was the Blair Witch Project, and the second one was the Blair Witch Book of Shadows, and then there was just Blair Witch. And I'm not certain, but I believe they sort of like indicate that at the very least Blair Witch, which is the third movie, takes place after the first one, but at the very least before the second one. The thing is, the second one has nothing to do with any of this. Kind of like the game. So I guess we'll start there. So if you were hoping to sort of like have some things maybe unveiled about the Blair Witch story, I don't think there's a lot here for you. Maybe.
Maybe is the right word. I think we should. I don't know. See. Okay, let's start with the story here, because for me, there's not a lot of meat on the bones, regardless. So let's start with the story here, because the story is essentially you play an ex-cop, I believe.
Correct.
And then something's up with this cop. He has a history, has the past that people around him, including his ex-cop buddies and his wife, are just worried about him. But he has chosen to help this search party look for this kid who's lost in the woods, and took his dog Bullet with them to help search. During this search process, that's when you kind of go down a rabbit hole of the woods being haunted. You may meet another character who's in cahoots with the witch, and you don't really get to know the witch's intentions until the end, and even then it's like kind of a shrug.
Yeah, there's not. There has to be a term for these type of games, or these types of stories in general. There's just no. There's no ending. Like there is an ending, but like it doesn't.
No, there's an ending. If you've watched the first Blair Witch movie and walked out like, well, what was the ending? Then prepare for that again.
Right. It's very much like, so what's kind of strange about this is like, so you basically, Ellis finds this camera, and you can sort of like, when you're watching the video, you can sort of, I guess it's not time travel, but like you make things in the video sort of appear. So like, let's say a tree fell, and then if you watch the video and the tree like, doesn't fall or fixes itself or whatever, in the real world, it sort of transforms the real world into what the tape is, if that makes sense. So therefore the tree was fallen and destroyed, but now it's not. So therefore you can now continue your path, kind of thing.
How that is a Blair Witch thing is beyond me. Like I mean, I know like the first movie was all about found footage, and they want to kind of keep with that. But in this game, the gameplay with that is essentially, like you said, is like if you want to remove something out the way of your path, you kind of watch it through the video and rewind it, and that kind of rewinds the time on that object. So now it's either broken again or unbroken.
Right. And so I think this is a long-winded way to just say, like, in my opinion, I just feel like this didn't start out as a Blair Witch game. It started out as some sort of found footage horror game, and they basically got the Blair Witch license at some point, because it just doesn't tie into anything. And it also kind of feels like the last 20% of the game was where they put a majority of the development time. and they do some kind of fun puzzles and problem solving with the camera and the visuals. Like they do a lot of tricks to where like you open doors and you go through it, and then all of a sudden like you're in the same room kind of thing, and then if you turn around and go through that door, like you're in another room. Like they do a lot of cool things like that sort of just make you have to really kind of stop and think and sort of pay attention to your surroundings and really pay attention to the footage and stuff like that. But everything before that just sort of feels like it's just sort of held together by duct tape. And what comes to mind is you can sort of command Bullet around, and he can sort of get sense, and you can tell him to do certain things, and sort of
the best descriptor you're using so far is sort of, because that's really is. You can sort of do all of that.
But like, so at the very beginning, that's important because when it's sort of, you have to find these items that are, because you're looking for this little boy and you have to sort of get the scent. But then after that, you don't really use Bullet anymore. Like every once in a while he'll find an item or something. But I felt like after that first initial wave, I was like, I'm not really using this mechanic anymore. But they sort of go out of their way to make sure that you know about it, which I thought was strange. And then there's actually, do we call it combat? If you thought the combat in Alan Wake was one note, imagine Alan Wake but standing still is the best way I can describe it. So there's something attacking you in the woods, and you defend against it by shining your flashlight at it, but you literally stand still and you sort of move around in a circle, and you just shine your light on it and it sort of dies.
When you got the request to do this game, and as I said up top, I played this game when it first came out. I sort of dreaded it because I really didn't want to jump back into one of these again. And what I mean by these is this is one of those games where, these horror games specifically, where it's first person and you basically walk around an area that is at times pitch black, and the only objective is to get from point A to point B. And when you get into to advance a story you don't really care about, with characters that don't really matter. For the most part, I've seen two people play this game, and they cared more about Bullet, the dog, than anything else in this game. And having gotten to the end of this game, finally, I can confirm Bullet's probably the best character in the game.
Yeah, it's strange because I was sort of I keep saying sort of, I was interested in the little boy disappearance storyline, because for a moment, right. And then they sort of just shoot that in the head, and then it sort of becomes a different story altogether. And that's also sort of aids in my inkling that this was not a Blair Witch game at one point. So that plays into it in terms of the pacing is very strange, in where they don't seem to have a cohesive story in terms of what they want to get done, kind of thing. And there is a villain in this game, and they're introduced pretty late.
I'm not saying your feelings are wrong on that. It's just a matter of having seen everything Blair Witch for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I
didn't like the first one that much, but having seen everything Blair Witch, I can honestly see this as being Blair Witch from the ground up, but I can see it not being Blair Witch from the ground up at the same time. And then when it comes to the plot point with the kid, the missing child in the woods, it's like you're invested until you're not, and then they force you to be invested again with a choice about 3/4 of the way through. And to your point earlier, where it's where they kind of put most of what feels like they put most of the development in the last portion of the game, that's where I feel like a lot of the decision making happens, and it's not enough decision making to warrant like a Mass Effect 2 feel where it's like I created this story, I weave this tale by making these decisions. It's like it's really just like throwaway options to get either ending A or ending B, and neither one of them are very satisfying.
Yeah, I've seen both endings. As when I finished the game, I immediately went to YouTube and typed in, okay, what's the other ending kind of thing, and both of them, I don't care. It's there's no ending, like there really isn't, and you don't. What's even more strange is that you can actually find a definitive ending to some of the plot points, but it requires you to sort of play certain parts of the game again to get, quote, the real story, whatever you want to call it. And when I was curious enough that I went back and found the real ending, and was immediately, I don't know what I expected, but I was immediately just like, okay, well, that went nowhere. And why did I expect it to go? This is a bad game. Let's this is a bad game. I don't like this game at all.
I mean, listen, like when you said we had to play it again, I'm like, I don't want to play this game. And that's kind of the reason we were late too, is because I've just been dreading playing this game again, because that first half is such a chore, and then just for me to finally get to the second half and finish it, I just feel like, wow, what a giant waste of time.
Yeah, and part of me wanted to go back because while I do have an Xbox One X, I can't say for certain whether or not this has been fixed, but the game was super rough at launch, and even though it supposedly is 1X enhanced, it didn't look like it. It looked really bad, and the frame rate is extremely choppy again in the first half of the game. Anytime you're in the forest, it just seems like there's just too much going on for the engine to handle. But what's strange is the second half of the game runs a lot better, which is weird just because it's a UE4 game, so it's not like it's running on an engine that can't handle it. It just felt very unoptimized. So part of me was saying, okay, well, I've got a much stronger PC. I want to sort of play this game the right way, quote, and I want to, crank up the graphics and all that, so that way at least it looks better. And it doesn't. Like, I'm able to max this game out, and it still just looks really bad and choppy, and everything's sort of pixelated, and the frame rate's still all over the place. And that was my one reason to kind of go back and sort of, and it does have cross save, so I was able to sort of see the beginning and the end of the game from both perspectives, and that was sort of my motivation to sort of play it right, I guess you could say, and it just didn't help. It's bad. Like, it's just bad all around. It looks ugly. It's not challenging. Story doesn't go anywhere.
And people who listen to this podcast might have heard me say these type of games before, quote unquote. I'm just really over these type of horror games where it's, again, like you heard me say this before, like there's just no gameplay. Like there's
right.
Not like you're a walking, floating camera, just maneuvering through the woods. There are entire sequences where you're just holding the left stick up in this gameplay, and like entire sequences. And it's
what I find strange is that I have played Outlast, and I don't think there's any. I don't think it's crazy to say that this game is inspired by it.
Absolutely.
And I actually like Outlast, but I think that's because they don't try to, for the most part. I mean, it's not a perfect game by any means, but they don't try to make it anything other than it is. Like, it's a game that is designed to scare the crap out of you, and it's not trying to be an action game at times. Whereas Blair Witch, with the random Alan Wake combat, it's strange. Like, it just can't seem to understand what it wants to be. So it doesn't do the horror very well. It doesn't do the gameplay well. It doesn't do the graphics well. If it at least had something going for it, I could at least get behind it. But it just doesn't. It's not even one of those things where it does a lot of things well and okay. It doesn't do anything good at all. So
I'll put the period after anything. It doesn't do anything.
It
doesn't tell a story at all, because as you said up top, we think it takes place in the Blair Witch universe. We might not. You don't learn anything about the witch.
Right.
This is the fourth or fifth entry in the Blair Witch Project series through several mediums, and we don't know anything about the witch, what the witch wants, what her goals are, and on face value, there are times where that could be acceptable. Like if Blair Witch was a one and done situation, like we're okay with that. But to come 15 years later, add a video game to it, and then still add nothing about the lore is disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah. And when you look at the other releases from this studio, Observer is kind of the big one. Observer, that game, I don't particularly like it, but I can see why people do. The world design and the visual aspects of it are very strong, and it's a horror game in a sort of cyberpunk looking world kind of thing. So it does something unique, but it also, again, doesn't try to put gameplay in it where it doesn't belong. So I also find it strange that this game, coming from the same team, is making mistakes that their previous games didn't make. And that's probably the most perplexing thing to me. But I don't know. It's kind of a bummer, but I think, they're not all going to be home runs. But for me, seeing this, it's not a good example of the excitement that you can get around Game Pass, and that this was one of those games where it's like day one you can play this brand new game and you're just like, okay, that's awesome, I can't wait to check this out. Like it sort of pushes that narrative of Game Pass can be a dumping ground, for games that they don't expect to be good, and the reason they don't expect to be good is because they're not good, and so to get some of their money back they dump it on Game Pass kind of thing. And you've got the opposite, where you got Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which is a fantastic video game that is insanely good, and then you've got the opposite of Blair Witch. And so the verdict is still out, I guess. But so I think it's fair to say on this one we agree, don't play this game. Pass it on. Pass on it. Pass on it. Do not pass it on.
Absolutely, because there are better games in this genre that, like you point to Outlast, there's a handful more that nail the aesthetic, that nail the environment, the art style, the tone. This is basic woods, make it dark, get lost. I can't even say it's good for cheap jump scares. Like it's not. I don't think I got a decent one of those. So
no, yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
So I'll completely agree with that. Like just pass on by this one.
Yeah, and Observer is one of those instances, and Observer was on Game Pass for console. I don't think it ever came out on PC. So I mean, if Observer's still on console, I say play that if you're looking for something along those lines. But no, yeah, don't pass this one by. Don't do anything with it. So I also misspoke. It's coming to Switch this summer, and don't buy it there either. So, but all right, that's Blair Witch. So I guess it's now time to talk about the future a little bit. In true Microsoft fashion, they are going to be putting a lot of games that are day one in the next couple weeks. So in our quest and allegiance to play day one games that are released on Game Pass, our games have been decided. There's no dice spinning, unfortunately, for a couple weeks. So, but until then, we do. I guess we could spin. So originally, our next game was going to be The Surge 2. Okay. We had a couple options here, Basher. Okay. So on April 28th, Gears Tactics is coming out. So that week is decided. And then on April 21st, which is next week, Gato Roboto will be coming to the Game Pass service.
That sounds terrible.
So we got to play that. So
okay.
We did this. This is the Allegiance.
Oh man.
So the question is, do we play the Surge 2? Do we spin the wheel? Or do we play Sunset Overdrive? Because we've been talking about that for a while.
So right off the bat, I say hold off on Sunset Overdrive because that's going to be my own running joke for the rest of my life. We could spin the wheel but we have to do Gato Roboto.
We have to. It's day one release.
God, it's in black and white.
Hey, so was Minute.
Yeah, and I didn't like that one too much either.
I like that game.
Yeah, you guys are wrong. We gotta do Gato Roboto. I mean,
we're doing that, but we have time for one more.
We do have time for one more.
Yes.
Is
it the Surge 2 or do we spin the wheel?
You know what? I'm gonna put that back on you only because I have played the Surge 2 a second time and actually completed it this time around.
Okay.
So I have it in the chamber ready to go. I am very curious as to what your overall feelings will be on a Souls-like game, considering we both despise Souls-like clones.
That's tough. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel.
I'm gonna throw it back on you after that. I'm gonna spin the wheel, and then you have to pick between the two games.
All right.
So let me open the app here. My mouse is disobeying me today. And I'm going to spin the wheel. All right, here we go. Clicking the button. Surprise me. We've already played Halo Wars 2. We have already played Minute. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I've never even heard of this game. It's a simulation game. Imperator, Imperator, Rome, Imperator, Rome. The Alexander, Hannibal, Caesar, these great men and dozens like them shaped the destiny of a continent. Mighty kings, clever generals, and would-be gods made their mark on the ancient Mediterranean. Around this sea, close-knit nations tested their mettle and virtue against each other in fierce combat, their cultural and political legacy now inseparable from what we understood as Western civilization. But nothing was guaranteed. Can you change the course of history in Imperator, Rome?
Oh, man.
So it's up to you.
I gotta go Imperator.
Oh, man.
I mean, like, I'm hoping for like a civilization type thing with some role playing in there.
Well, no, I'm vetoing this. We're playing Surge.
But Imperator, I want to change the course of history.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now. I've played a lot of Paradox games, and I like a lot of Paradox games. But from what I am seeing on this, the tutorial is broken and it's got a steep learning curve. So I am going to say if the tutorial is broken and there's a steep learning curve, I don't want to burn a week on something that's broken. So we're not going to take that risk. We're going to play the Surge 2.
I'm sold on it, actually, by that description, but whatever.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to – I normally I don't look at these reviews on the Windows Store, but it's got – a bunch of 1 stars and a bunch of them say tutorial is broken and the game keeps crashing. So not gonna take that risk in the sake of time. So all right, that means next week we're going to be playing the Surge 2 And that's going to be interesting because, like you said, we are not Souls people. So we'll see how this Souls does for us. But all right, that's going to do it for this episode of Game Pass or Pass. We will see you next time.
Good day, sirs.